Did you know that there are roughly 4.8 million Jews living in the United States today? According to pewresearch.org, this is a fact. That amounts for 1.8% of the United States population being Jewish. I think because of this large number of people, where it's inevitable that we will come across Jews in our daily life every week. I would say the possibility is that you're going to meet multiple people who would identify as Jewish. Because of this, I think it's beneficial to learn more about their culture and their belief system. I know in my life, with the friends that I have that are practicing Jews, it's become very important knowing some of their religious practices and their holidays, some of the events that take place in their lives, and being able to celebrate them and understand them to get a better understanding of my friends. In being able to learn some of these values and traditions, some of these events, I was able to learn a lot about the values that they had. Most of which I focused on with my friends was in their family systems. The Jews have a very high value placed on family, especially the wives and the women in the family. It's actually a misconception that women are considered subservient or they're lower or that men are in some way above them in the Jewish system. That's not actually true. It's exactly the opposite. Moses called the women in Hebrew Akayabat Habayit, which means the mainstay. It's the mainstay of the household. The woman is considered the mainstay. When I looked it up, I saw on a website called Shabbat.org that the women are considered the highest rung. They're considered the foundation. They are not considered the basement in the Jewish household. The women have the ability to make the household what it is. They change the attitude and they can make it very positive. While the Jews are a cultural group, a lot of that comes originally from the fact that they were a religious group. And I think it's of utmost importance that we do focus some time on their belief system. According to the BBC, the Jews believe that there is a single God who not only created the universe, but who also is in control of the universe to this day. And they also believe that each and every individual Jew can have a personal relationship with this creator, this almighty being. They believe that they serve a God who is omnipresent, always there, and he is all knowing, and that he is all powerful. They believe that at some point in the future, God will send down a Messiah, and that when the Messiah comes, that the Jewish people are a chosen people set apart from the rest of the world, and that this Messiah will come to bring the Jews up to heaven and ascend up there where they can enjoy this promised land of heaven. The Jews are not just a cultural group. They originally sprung from a religious belief system and a religious people, and they still hold on to that today. Their main belief, according to the BBC, is that they believe in a single God who not only created the universe, but with whom every Jew can have an individual and personal relationship. They believe that God continues to work in the world today and that he still controls and affects everything that everyone does. The Jews believe that they're a chosen people, that they have been set apart from the other people in the world by God, and that one day God will send them a Messiah, and that Messiah will fulfill the prophecies laid out in the Torah, their religious scriptures, their readings, that the Messiah will come and basically fulfill the end of the prophecies that are in there dealing with eschatology or the study of end times. And in doing so, he will begin judgment. But when he does that, the Jews, the chosen people, and the Messiah will ascend up to heaven together, and they will be able to enjoy this paradise free from the judgment. In doing this, and in order to keep with this belief system, they actually follow a set of laws that are laid out in their holy scriptures, in their religious reading, the Torah, and these pertain to things such as kosher food, not eating pork and other things, not eating dairy with meat. Um, they have a lot of rules that they carry on through today. You can actually see this in that belief structure. They put so much credence on it that they actually, you'll see the Orthodox Jews do not actually cut the hair that comes from the five corners of the face, and that's why you'll see them with the curly here. They always wear a hat, not just a yarmulke or the normal covering, but they'll at least have a hat on or a yarmulke. And they do all of that based on this belief system. They're extremely devoted to that belief system. They focus their entire lives around that. In focusing their lives around their belief system, they also focus in such a way as that their celebrations are also focused around God. Every one of their major celebrations in some way are based on their religious and their belief system. I wanted to take a look at a few of these. Of course, the first one that comes to mind, I think, to everyone when you think of the Jews and celebrations is Hanukkah. This usually occurs around Christmas time, and it also has a gift-giving element, which means that most Christians and most normal people would see it as in some way related to Christmas. While it is not actually related to Christmas, because of the Jews don't believe in Christ as a Messiah and they don't celebrate the birth of Christ, which is what the original meaning for Christmas was, it does have its own celebration involved with it. It's actually based on a story and a tradition of the Jews, the Maccabees to be precise, fighting against the Syrian Greeks in the 2nd century. During this fight in the Holy Land, the Maccabees, the Jewish warriors, only had enough oil to provide light for one night. And the battle actually waged on for 8 nights, and that oil lasted for those all 8 nights of the battle. And this is why they celebrate Hanukkah for 8 nights. It's also why, in celebrating that miracle or that gift of that oil lasting, they give the gifts out during those 8 nights. Each night, you would give a gift to a loved one. The next holiday would be Shabbat. It's a celebration of the Sabbath. Shabbat is observed every week, and it begins at sundown on Friday and just after sundown on Saturday. And it is the day of rest, in keeping with the story of creation, in which God works for 6 days and on the 7th day he rests. This is what the Jewish people do on their Shabbat. They refrain from doing labor. This is given out in the law, in their holy scriptures. They have 39 practices which are forbidden on Shabbat. And these include things like lighting fires. It would include plowing your field. It would include writing with a pencil, or writing in general. You cannot turn on lights. There's a lot of things that you cannot do. You can't cook, so they actually cook the day before. And they basically get together, and it's a time for them to focus on God, to take a rest, and to be with family. And they focus on that. It's not time when they're out watching TV or doing any of this. And because of that, it goes back into one of those values of family, and they get to spend quality time with their family on the Shabbat celebration, which is weekly. The last one is more somber, and it's the holiest of days in the Jewish event calendar, and it would be Yom Kippur, which would be the Day of Atonement. It's a little bit more somber. This day focuses on atonement and reconciliation. That's achieved through fasting and prayer throughout the day. They are praying and they are fasting.
Hi, I'd like to talk about four important Jewish artifacts that are very dear to Jewish culture. The first being the Torah, which is basically contains the five books of Moses, and it is basically the Hebrew law book for non-Jewish people. That'd be considered the Old Testament. And it is the foundation for their religion, and it is used by God basically to speak to the people. It contains all their laws and their customs and their traditions and what to do and what not to do. It was said to be given to Moses strictly on Mount Sinai as Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt. And that brings me to my next one, which is the menorah. And the menorah is a stand basically to light, candles or oil out of. It has many arms and branches, and each one was lit on a different day, only for a designated amount of time though. And the significance from that is from a battle that happened long ago where they had to use the oil sparingly because they didn't have enough to keep burning it, but turned out to be that the oil kept burning. And the lamp is also viewed as many as kind of a light of God that shines through any of the darkness. And that brings me to my next one, the mezuzah, which is basically a parchment scroll hung over the doorway and of the Jewish family, and it is to let any passerby know that God's omnipresent is here, and that these people living here believe in sanctifying His name and keeping it holy, and that they are, God's people. The last thing I would like to talk to you about is the yarmulke, and that is basically a holy headset. This one is probably the newer or the newest of the artifacts. It is basically just a small little cap worn by men in and outside of the temple. Strictly in the temple is to remain on at all times. Even guests do wear it sometimes. You can ask other Jews, though, that they do prefer to wear it all the time, even out in public, from doing day-to-day things. There are many different little small differences with the yarmulke. Some yarmulkes mean different things with status or levels of knowledge or whatever, but that is the yarmulke. So due to time, I only had time to cover four artifacts, but there are many more, and so yeah, these are the four artifacts.
In conclusion, the Jewish culture is a large and relevant culture in today's modern world. Knowing about their practices opens up an entire new culture that you can be a part of and you can enjoy. It also helps you to be able to identify with these people and learn more about them and why they do the things that they do. Like, for example, taking Shabbat off and not working on the Sabbath. We found in our research, we went to a Shabbat service, and we found that they warmly welcomed us into their service, and they guided us through. They were very eager to teach us and to tell us why they did the things that they did, and it was just a very warm welcoming, and they were very energetic, very enthusiastic to embrace our desire to learn more about them and their culture. In doing this, in learning more about it, I've also become able to identify with my own Jewish friends a lot better and discuss these matters with them. I would highly encourage you, if you haven't had a chance yet, to go and find a synagogue near you and maybe get a hold of them and ask if you can participate in one of their services and see. I know for the one that we went to afterwards, they served lunch, and we got to sit down with them and eat and just talk with them and share a lunch and see how they interacted with their family members and how they put such importance on family and on that Sabbath day. So I would just encourage you to get out there and do a little research if you have any spare time, and maybe go hands-on and find a synagogue where you can meet these people and see their culture in action. Thank you for your time.